Hey guys, Magnus here, bringing you another video, and today this is gonna be a real interesting one because we are versing Wild West against Winter 2015, both of which I think are very strong events, very strong. I would say that these are probably both in my top 10. I'm not too sure because I haven't done my top 10 list. Once I do this Battle of the Best Events, I will be doing my top 10 list because this will give me a better understanding of what my top 10 list is. I'll obviously go back and sort of rank them. I might actually instead, I may do a full ranked video and rank them all, because obviously we have some in here that I admit probably shouldn't be as low as they should be. So for example, Love Springfieldian Style, I think is a bit low. I still put the Stonecutters event above it, but I do think it is a bit low, so I probably would have to put that somewhere in this pile. But obviously some of the round 2 contenders weren't in the round 1, so it's not, the round 1 and 2 aren't particularly balanced, but hopefully by the time we get to round 3 and round 4 and also the semi-finales, I'm hoping that this will be far more balanced. So today we are versing the Wild West against Winter 2015. Like I said, both very strong events. So we shall start with 2015, Winter 2015, because that's the older of the events. So let's start. So Winter 2015 was structured just like, your classic major 3-act structure event, like many that we got in previous years. We obviously had the unique factor of these little different things that you could upgrade. So there was the gingerbread mansion, the hot squishy station, you had the giant snowman, the igloo thing, and also the like the Kryptonian thingy-majiggy. We'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, so you had all these buildings that you could upgrade, and that was definitely a very unique sort of feature. I personally, I'm not a huge fan of building upgrades. To me, they're just very tedious. So I'm not going to lie, it's not particularly a strong factor on my part. At least it's something new, so I'll give it a point for that. But in terms of actually being an effective and engaging kind of extra thing, I just don't think so. We obviously had crafting for many Christmas items, some of which were returning, so you could craft multiple things, which is very cool. There was special weekly challenges. So overall it was a very good event. The structure and the theme was, the theme anyway, was of course that basically Maggie was the theme. It was all leading up to unlocking Maggie, and also then having a special act that was all based around Maggie. So personally, I think the theme is very strong. It's a good Christmas update, but also acts as a very good sort of Simpsons family tie-in update. So I think the theme is very strong. Moving on to Wild West, which I think also had a very strong theme. Of course, the theme was the Wild West. It pretty much says it in the name. We of course had things mainly structured around Wild West things, and like people who were kind of Wild West looking, I guess is probably the best way to put it. We obviously got the desert as a brand new tile, and the dirt road as a brand new tile. Very cool to add them. I actually really enjoyed this feature. I think that feature alone was very, very good, very strong. I'm so glad they added that, because it's helped with so many designs where I don't think they suit with grass or pavement. Obviously, you had the little general store that was there where you could get different rocks and stuff if you did little tasks. You obviously had the prize tracks, 3-act structure, just like this one. You obviously had the crafting that was there as well. You could craft different little decorations, which is very cool too. Lots of awesome features. It's, pretty much just like your standard 3-act event with some crafting and some other little jazzy things in there. So, which one do I give the point for structure and theme? Now, I will say this, I think is probably going to be the most difficult point. We'll see, but I think this one is a real difficult point, because although I think in terms of engaging features, I think the Wild West wins, but in terms of theme, I really like what they did with 2015. Now, the theme of Wild West is pretty basic, I'm not gonna lie, obviously tying in all these things from different episodes is kind of hard, I admit, but I would say that the way they structured 2015 in terms of the quest line was a bit better. But then I think in terms of the sort of theme, I would give the point to Winter 2015, but the structure I'd give to Wild West. So this is what I mean when I say it's really tricky. But I'm going to break the tie, and the event that I'm going to give the structure and theme to is Wild West. I just think I just think I enjoyed the feel and I enjoyed the pace of Wild West far more than I did 2015. But I will say the quest line does make it a real tight one, so I could understand if someone would give the point to Winter 2015 instead. I really do. Moving on to characters. So, of course, what did Winter 2015 do? Now, both these events on the wiki have split up through acts, so it's going to be a bit jarring, but we'll go through each act individually. So starting off with Winter 2015, Act 1, we of course had Sophie Christoscoffi, Patches and Poor Violet, and the Dancing Reindeer. I think all three of the characters are fine. They're all, Sophie wasn't free, but the other two were free. I think Patches and Poor Violet are definitely a very cool character to get. I think the Dancing Reindeer is pretty cool to get. He's free, so you can't complain. He's just a weird looking NPC. And Sophie Christoscoffi, I think, is a very decent premium character, although a little overpriced. 110 donuts is a bit expensive just for a character. We also had a skin, which was White Witch Burns for 60 donuts. Very reasonable priced. I don't think it's an amazing skin, but for its price, you can't complain. Moving on to Act 2. We, of course, had Maggie, so I've got to give huge props to this, the fact they added her in the game. I actually didn't really ever think about adding her in the game, because I kind of thought, well, she's a baby, you can't really add her as a character, but it makes complete sense, and the fact that it took them this long was a bit annoying, so the fact that we got her is very awesome. So I have to give massive props to this. I think what they did with Maggie as well, how they tied her in with that little, something I forgot to mention in the Winter 2015 is the Maggie video game as well, the little mini game they added. I don't think that would have changed my point, but it was a very awesome, cool little mini game to have in there where you can earn some donuts. So of course Maggie's inclusion as a character, I think, is just beyond the Call of Duty. It's amazing. So I think I have to give a bonus point to Maggie. That's right. So obviously, I just need to quickly make a note of this. So obviously, Sophie Christoscoffi, Patches of Poor Violet, and then I'm going to give 2 points to Maggie. Okay. And then we also had Festive CBG. I don't think it's anything particularly amazing. It's all right, but it's nothing to write home about, is what I'm saying. Then we have Baby Gerald, who I think is very good. Ling Bouvier, also very good, although a little overpriced, I will admit. Coney's Other Son, very good. Mrs. Sinclair, I'm a little on her. She's not particularly that interesting to me personally, but I can understand if you're a fan of her. Lucille Boskowski, I love, especially bringing a classic character in. It's great. Rosa is a little bad in my opinion. I don't think, obviously she's kind of exclusive, so I think she is fully exclusive, right? So I wasn't a huge fan of that whole inclusion. But they did give us those little clips, didn't they? They gave us those bonus clips. So that was a cool feature anyway. And then finally, the Imaginary Bear. I actually really love the Imaginary Bear as an NPC. I think he's really cool. I liked it as a nice kind of souvenir for this event, and obviously he has that tie-in with Maggie, so I think the Imaginary Bear was pretty cool. Right, so that concludes the characters and the costumes for Winter 2015. So I've given them a total of 10 points. So that is the score for Winter 2015. Moving on to the Wild West. So, of course, we had, in Act 1, we had Gummy Joe and Buck McCoy. I think Gummy Joe is a little in my opinion. As a first act prize, I don't think he's particularly that strong. He's kind of a one-note character, in my opinion, so I'm not a massive fan of him, but Buck McCoy I thought is pretty cool, and I think he was done very well. Although I will admit, the fact that we didn't get his house is a bit strange, and we got that film set instead, so I don't think the combo was particularly great, but the character himself on his own is fine. Cowboy Homer, I like enough, it's okay, and Wes Dubner I think is pretty cool too, which is obviously the Sideshow Bob costume. Moving on to Act 2, we of course had, if it will load, we had Luke Stetson, who I'm not a massive fan of. I think he's very generic, and I don't think they did anything particularly interesting with him in the game, so I'm not going to give any points for that. But the Tumbleweed, I don't care. I love the Tumbleweed. The fact they added that as a character, I think is amazing. I don't give a shit. Finally, we have Skins. The Kid with No Name is it's all right. I'll give it half a point. And then Outlaw Snake. I think, you know what, I'll be fair and I'll round that to 1 point for Outlaw Snake and the Kid with No Name combined. I think they're both kind of meh to okay costumes. And then finally, we of course have Act 3. We of course got Brutus and the Prospector. Now the fact I think Brutus and the Prospector are fine as NPCs. I just don't think they're anything particularly that amazing. For me, I'll be fair, and the fact that we didn't get like another character is a bit annoying. The other thing we got was a skin for Skinner. So I'll give a point for them combined, but I don't think they're anything that amazing. And then Prairie Maggie is very cool. I actually really love that skin. And Longshot Skinner is meh. I'm gonna say meh. He's all right. So those are the characters for Wild West. So of course, Wild West scored a total of 7, in my opinion. Well, you know, I scored it a total of 7, meaning that of course the winner is 2015 because they scored a total of 10. Right, moving on to buildings. So, first of all, we'll start with Winter 2015. So of course we got Things Unnecessary, which is pretty cool. The Ski Chalet, I like it. I like quite a lot. The Woolly Bully, it's a decent enough building. Springfield Orphanage, I generally think it's quite small. It's sized a little bit weird, so I'm not a massive fan of that one. Virgil's Cabin is... We've got so many cabins in the game, I'm just not that particularly interested in this one. I will admit it's cool, because obviously it's the one from the Virgil segment, but the fact we didn't also get Virgil with it, and they didn't tie in any of the characters from that, just kind of makes it feel like they added it because it was in a snowy area. So personally, in terms of its occlusion, and in terms of what it looks like, I'm just not a fan of it. Victor's Secret, though, I love. The Duff Center Arena, I love. The Springfield Animal Shelter is very good. The Gingerbread Man House, I'm not a huge fan of, and the Best Snowman Ever, I'm also not a huge fan of, so don't get points for those ones. But then we have Act 2, the Chocolate Shop, I love. The Epcot Center is great. The Xmas Tree, slightly irregular, I'm not a huge fan of these. I've said it before, I think we've got too many Christmas tree lots. Buckingham Pay Less Motel, I think it's pretty cool. Abercrombie and Rich is very cool. The North Pole Station, I'm going to give 2 points to, because god damn it, I love the fact that they added that in, and they kept adding things to the monorail. I think this was the last time they added something to the monorail. Actually, no, they added the Magic Station as well, didn't they? But this one was like the second to last, but the fact that they added it in was really cool to kind of keep the monorail going. Exotic Petting Zoo, I'm honestly not that big of a fan of this one, I'm not going to lie. The Reindeer Burger Truck is, I'll give it a point. The Fortress of Longitude, I'm not a huge fan of, and the Moonshine Shack, I'm also not a fan of, unfortunately. But then moving on to Act 3, we of course have Ayn Rand's School for Tots, which gets a point. The Play-Doh Factory, which gets 3 points because it has a mini game where you can earn donuts, so why wouldn't I? Wally Weasels, I give a point. Slide Factory, I'll give a point. And the Rubber Baby Buggy Bumpers, it's sort of a semi-exclusive building, but I think they designed it really cool, so I'm going to give it a point. So, Winter 2015 ends with 20 points. So this will be interesting. We'll move on to, of course, Wild West. So in Act 1 we have the Town Plaza. I actually liked this for the most part. I'm not a huge fan of corner buildings normally, but I think this one was good, so I'll give it 1 point. The General Store, I'll give it a point too. It was good. Bank, yeah, it's fine. It kind of adds to this feel. The Top Shop Barbershop, again, yeah, I'll give it a point too. Wilted Rose, sure. Where's Dubner's Rip Huts is good. The Wild West film set, I'm not a huge fan of. And the Bandit Fort, I'm also not a huge fan of. So those two don't get points. Then in Act 2, we of course have the Coral. Do I give this one a point? I'm not going to give this one a point, but the Ordnance Express, I think, yeah, we'll give a point to that. The Hootenanny Barn, I'm not a huge fan of. It's nothing particularly interesting, so I'll leave a point off. I won't give a point for that one. But then we have Part and Parcel Postal. I'll give that one a point. Blacksmiths, I'll give that one a point. And the Sneed and Feed and Seed, I also give a point. So that means that Wild West ends with a total of 10 points, but of course Winter 2015 ends with a total of 20, so of course I have to give the point to Winter 2015. Just far stronger buildings in my opinion, so yeah. Moving on to, of course, decorations. So Winter 2015 of course needs only 1 point now. Wild West needs 3 to win. Wait, no, not 3 to win. 2 to win. So it needs to get the next 2 points in order to win. So starting off with Winter 2015, we have the Fancy Igloo. Not a huge fan of that one. Christmas clams, £50 a pound. Again, whatever. Not a huge fan of that one. Hot Squishy Station. I kind of like the look of this one, I'm not going to lie. So I'll give it a point. The Lollipop Flowers, I have no use for. The Marshmallow Tree, I kind of like, so I'll give that one a point. The Leftorium Express is very cool, so I'll give that one. And the Murdered Snowman, I'm not a huge fan of, I'm not going to lie, so no point for that one. In terms of other decorations for Act 2, we had the Giant Outdoor Fireplace. It's an interior, not a huge fan of it. The Ice Sculpture Couch Gag Scene, no, no point for that. The New Year's Ball, I actually really love this one, a lot. The picture on Remembrant, that gets a point for sure. The Giant Snow Globe gets a point. Actually, I'll give that one 2 points because I really love the animation inside that. The Pig of Paradise pen, the Woolly Mammoth pen, and the Land Octopus pen, I don't give any of those points. I hate them. I hated that whole zoo thing. It was really weird. And then, of course, in Act 3, we had the Bear Cave, which I really want it. You know what? No, I'll give that one a point. I think it's sweet. And the slide, I also give that one a point. So it ends off with 9 points. So, moving on to Wild West, we of course have, and some of these I will just have to give 1 point to because obviously there's like different rocks. So the Cactus Rock, I give a point to overall. The Stagecoach, not a huge fan of that. For the Stagecoach and the Hitched Horse combined, I'll give a point. Bloodbath Gulch sign, it's just a sign, so I'm not a huge fan of that. In terms of the rock pillars, I like them a lot, so I give a point, 1 point overall. The Frontier Fence is okay. Do you know what? I have used that one quite a lot, so I feel like I should give a point. Quicksand, I'm not a huge fan of that. The Frinks Meccano Spider, I like that one a lot. It's really cool. Frontier Gate is, good, but I'm combining it with the Frontier Fence. And then the Cacti, I also love. That just makes the desert feel so much more lively, so I've got to give a point there. Moving on to Act 2, we of course had the Cactus Rock. I think in terms of the rocks, do you know what? There's also the rock pile. So I'll give 1 point for the Cactus Rock and the rock pile. I think that's fair. The Horse Trow, not a huge fan. Wooden Barrel, I mean, it's nice for the interior, but I don't think I'm particularly that amazed by it. The Cow Tongues, again, Then we have the Old Mine. I do. Let me just quickly have a look at this to make sure it's definitely the one I like. Yeah, I think that one's okay. I think it deserves at least 1 point. And the Princess, I'm not a huge fan of that. The Hitching Post, again, we've kind of got the hitching with the horse, with the hitched horse. So, yeah. I mean, it's kind of cool, but it doesn't deserve an extra point. The Frontier Gate, again, doesn't really deserve an extra point. And then finally we have, wait, there's so many Cactus Rocks. Are these just all different? Oh yeah, I think they're all slightly different, aren't they? The Cactus Rock Hitched Horse, I swear that's the same horse. Frontier Cemetery, I think this one's a bit narrow almost. The Frontier Water Tower, I like that water tower. The Mortician Carriage is pretty cool, pretty spooky looking. The wooden barrel, we obviously have the Horse Trow, the Explosives, the Wooden Barrels. I think and the Covered Wagon. For all that, I'll give a point. The Forgotten Treasure Part, Gold Treasure Pile, not a huge fan of that one. Obviously another rock pile. The Frontier Fence again. I swear, I'm so confused. Hot Springs, which is okay. Carlsdad's Caverns, I actually love that one a lot, so I'll give that one a point. The Old West sign, I do like that, although it is just a sign. It's a cool sign. And then another Cactus Patch, I'm not sure. That apparently is returning from Terwilligers anyway, so. In total, I'm not sure about that Cactus Plat, but it doesn't matter. But in total, I have given Winter 2015 a total of 9 points, but Wild West I have given a total of 13. So, the point of course goes to Wild West, which means it gets deadlocked. It's deadlocked. So, I must break the tie with my personal opinion, and I really didn't want it to come down to this, because I knew for a fact I was going to find this really hard. So, all being said, which event do I look back with fonder memories? Which one do I look back at with fonder memories? And as much as I hate to say it, the one that I generally look back at with much fonder memories, the one that I think I am constantly reminded about in my town, is the Wild West. So, I think there's a good case here for the Wild West winning. However, with Winter 2015, we of course got that minigame, which is still in the game, and we had Maggie. I mean, Maggie, for Christ's sake. Am I really going to put a Wild West update above the update that finally gave us Maggie? And the answer to that question is yes. Because I think, even though, yes, this update gave us Maggie, yes, it gave us lots of cool characters, lots of amazing buildings, I think this update generally gets the point for characters and buildings. It's so far up there in terms of its characters and its buildings. But the event that I just think has the much better feel, the ones that I have the much better memory of, is Wild West. Because every time I drag my finger and go to my western part of my town, my desert part of my town, I am reminded of this amazingly creative update that was so simple but so effective. And yes, there is so much care into Winter 2015, and I love it as a Christmas update. I think it still is my favourite Christmas update. But the one that I just generally look back at with so many more fun memories has got to be Wild West. So, I am going to submit the scores there. I feel so sad that Winter 2015 is lost, but it was definitely a good contender. It put up a very good fight. So, Wild West, of course, goes to the next round, where it will be versing Burns Casino, and that one will also be really hard. And tune in next week, I guess, for Treehouse of Horror, the last 2 rounds of round 2, or the last 2 matches of round 2. We have Treehouse of Horror XXXIX versus Destination Springfield, which in the past I've said Destination Springfield is my favourite, so this one should be an interesting one. And we also have Treehouse of Horror XXVII versus Itchy and Scratchy Land, so that one too should be very interesting. So I hope you enjoyed this event. This one I think was the hardest one out of all of them. I'm not going to lie. I'm generally trying to reconsider my points, but because it really comes down to that arbitrary, which is, do I have better fonder memories of? And I don't know. I'm just going to leave it here. If you disagree with me, I completely agree. I completely can see your point of view. But yeah, tune in next week for that. We have one more then after that, and then we start round 3, which I'm so excited to start because, god damn it, I wanna finish this series. I am determined to see it through. We've got past the hard part, which was round 1 and round 2. Well, I say the hard part, the easy part. Well, then we got the hard part. Well, the more quantity of parts, anyway. Then we got round 3, which I'm really interested in, but round 2 and the semi-finales are going to be really interesting. And of course, once I'm done with this, what I'm going to do, my new kind of idea now, is I'm going to take all the major updates that have recently come out, so the Van Houten event, the Halloween event, was it? The Christmas event, and the recent Love and War event. I'm not sure if I'm missing one, I may be missing one, but I'm going to take all them, and I'm going to kind of put them in their own little Battle of the Best events. So that one will be really brief, it'll be like 2 rounds, or maybe 3 rounds. That one will be brief, it'll be randomized, so some may have a harder time, but whatever. I'm going to do that, and then the winner of that, I'm going to put up against the winner of this. So the winner of that one I'll put up against the winner of this. And then any new major updates that come out, every time that update ends, what I'll do is I'll kind of make a new, well, I say new series, but a continuation of Battle of the Best Events, which is like a, does it still stand as the best event? And I'll verse like a new event. And then I'll kind of go through that, and I'll do a similar thing where I do the whole points and all that. So I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching. Tell me your thoughts on this little video. Do you think that Wild West should have won? And I shall see you in the next one. Goodbye.